taking a look at the Beetronics Abelha Tropical Fuzz. I think it's fair at this point to refer to the Beetronics crew as fuzz experts. Their kind of earliest hype building and wave making releases were fuzz pedals. To this day, some of their most ambitious and creative things have been blending fuzz with other effects as well. And it's been really fun to see the different kind of textures and approaches they have taken in the fuzz world. Today we are talking about Abelha, and yes, this thing is gigantic. Hold on. Okay, full-size wine glass for scale. The Abelha is a monolith of a fuzz pedal. And from a company that really only makes interesting takes on fuzz, this is a standout in terms of it being a fascinating approach to a fuzz pedal. You effectively have two layers of the same three-mode fuzz in this thing. This is what they call a tropical fuzz, which basically means it's based on a Brazilian fuzz pedal that I have never heard of, but has myriad fascinating textures and some quirkiness to it. So let's talk about it. I said at the outset that this thing is basically two layers of the same three-mode fuzz. And effectively what you have here is your volume and your fuzz amount, as well as a two-band EQ and a center toggle that moves between a very kind of starved battery, Velcro-y, gated sounding fuzz, a conventional, nice, wide, huge sounding fuzz, and a slightly more focused kind of mid to high gain overdrive setting as well. You heard on that intro song that mid to high gain overdrive actually is very touch responsive, can take you from clean, beautiful edge of breakup stuff all the way through to some pretty raucous sounds, whereas that center fuzz gets kind of classically Beetronics crazy. You'll also notice that there is much more noise in this circuit than some of the other fuzzes we have covered from Beetronics. Which leads me to believe it's just inherent to the kind of like style of fuzz they're chasing here. But there is no getting around the fact that this thing produces some pretty crazy white noise alongside all of the texture that the fuzz offers. So all that to say, the noise floor on this thing might be the first place that people bounce off of this as a fuzz option. But if you're somebody who's not overly concerned with kind of like the cleanliness of your signal, and that's not to make excuses, there are people who just don't care about that or want that kind of white noise as part of a grander lo-fi style of playing. I think there's a place for white noise in the signal, whether it's specific fuzz choices, the kind of inherent white noise to a real tape echo, that kind of thing. So, there's going to be comments in this video about the noise floor of this pedal. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. It's totally fine. And the second thing that will either cause people to ricochet off of this or totally fall in love with it is what is referred to as tropical mode on this thing. And what that effectively is you have this kind of circle of lights around your EQ system here that changes colors between purple, blue, and kind of pinkish, depending on the different like mode you're in. But if you press and hold or double tap the bypass switch, you go into tropical mode, which is the same modes, but with a high pass filter applied to them, creating spitty, angry, thinner, psychedelic sounding fuzz textures. And these are the kind of sounds that I find very little value in, with a few exceptions. For me personally, my trick is to then try to kind of like rebalance to a normal EQ. So I bring down almost all of the treble, boost the low end, and it just results in a very decisively different texture as a result. Like I said, there are sounds in this thing that are absolutely not going to be for everybody, but this is very much a fuzz for somebody who will hear this and go, it's the only fuzz I've ever wanted in my entire life, and now I am complete. Size be damned, I guess. But in an era where not every pedal needs to be for every person, a company like Beetronics continuously astounds me. They continually make me really, really happy when I see something new coming from them, because I can count on them to be one thing, if nothing else, and that is always interesting. How about we all hide? And Dozer will too. And especially in the world of fuzz pedals, where there is so much, there is such a kind of like wealth of options, and so many of them are just a big muff. I am grateful for weird choices like this. So let's get to our pedal board, let's get to the sound samples, and let's give the Abelha a listen. What do you think? Great. So as always, before we get into our sound samples, let's go ahead and talk through our signal chain and the context we're working in. I am playing my Music Man St. Vincent Goldie into the Chase Bliss Brothers, the Beetronics Abelha, and the Universal Audio Del-Verb. From there, we go to our amplifier, which is the Matchless Lightning 15 running into the Universal Audio aux box. We are recording into Universal Audio's Luna DAW, where we are using a 1073 for kind of preamp level setting, and then we are mastering with an SSL bus compressor and ATR master tape. That is the entirety of our signal chain, and this is what our clean tone sounds like. So we're going to start things off volume slightly below noon because this thing puts out a ton of volume very quickly. We have buzz, which is our fuzz amount at noon, and we have our high and low EQ and our center toggle all centered up as well. Let's give the Abelha a listen. As you can hear from our discussion earlier, there is a pretty prevalent kind of like low white noise amount throughout the entire pedal. That's going to be pretty much par for the course for this thing. It's raucous and crazy and very fun in that way. Let's start by taking a look at this kind of like Nectar center position, which is going to be the kind of like full fuzz sound in this thing, and run through our kind of like min-max gain range and kind of balancing out with our volume control. Yeah, it gets like full on Smashing Pumpkins at the end there, which is quite cool considering it starts at still a very like usable minimum gain range, and we're still in that like proper fuzz center toggle. And it's worth noting like the volume comparison. Yeah, it's cool. It's got some really good usable like low gain even in that fuzz mode. But of course there's also a like proper fuzz setting as well on here. Let's go ahead, jump back up to that kind of noon position, start in our Nectar Fuzz. And then jump on over to this Honey Overdrive. And of course, you can hear it's like a little bit more restrained. It's not low gain, but it is more restrained. But it will give you access to definitely some more like, especially at those low settings compared to and still gets crazy. Yeah, so you can hear it's a little bit more ragged, but there's a little bit less gain, just enough to kind of be noteworthy as its own thing. I tend to like to kind of like bolster the low end on this kind of like honey setting a little bit more. I like how touch responsive that honey mode is, especially throwing it into some like delay and some reverb, it becomes a really cool. And let's take a look at that left toggle. This is going to be very much the kind of dying battery sounding setting, very kind of like strangled out, Velcro-y thing. It's called Pollen, and they refer to it as a sagged low gain buzz. Let's really drench this one in reverb and see if delay and verb kind of gives me a greater context for this kind of thing. I've always struggled with understanding the usefulness of these kind of Velcro-y sounds. Is this what it's used for? Because, I mean, that's actually kind of rad. Like, that'd be a great sound for doubling a guitar part on, like, the other side or at a higher volume than the original part. Like, that's all well and good. It's nice. It's pretty. There is something really cool in the kind of like messy brokenness of running something like that into something really pretty like that. Maybe that's the use case. Let's take a look at this EQ system back in our center position. With how like crazy and spitty this fuzz can get, having a strong two-band EQ is pretty incredibly helpful. The reactiveness of this EQ system to the amount of gain leads me to believe that the treble or the EQ system is pre-gain stage in this thing. I can't actually verify that. I haven't checked with Beetronics, but that's the read I get from the way that this kind of affects the amount of overall gain the pedal seems to be putting out. You may be noticing that there is like a subtlety from about here to here on both of these circuits, the high and low controls. And then at the extremes, suddenly they get really kind of like, it's almost like they kind of like curve up in intensity at those extreme points. That's very, very helpful for where we're going next. And where we're going next is tropical mode. You can press and hold, or you can double tap your bypass switch to switch from the kind of conventional 3 modes in this thing to what Beetronics refers to as the tropical versions of the 3 modes, basically being, as you can probably hear even from the responsiveness of that white noise, is a high-passed version of the original fuzzes. So where before you had you now have this very, very kind of spitty, high-end only version of the 3 different modes, which gets really, really bizarre as you get into that that leftmost position for that really like strangled fuzz. And for me personally, this kind of really, really strangled treble-only sound is not what I would go for in a fuzz. I understand that there is a use case for this kind of thing, but it is nowhere in almost any of my genre touch points. But you can, with this like fairly robust EQ system, create a like more conventionally helpful version of this in my opinion. And it just instead offers you, rather than this like wildly different thing, I appreciate that it offers you up a more subtly different version of the sound. You can almost get like a really nasal mid-range sound out of that. Again, for me, I feel like I would just be happier. But jumping from that kind of tropical side, even that can sound a little conventionally boring. Like, that's really jagged for me, but spoiler alert, I haven't written the intro song for this video yet. I'm starting with the samples in my recording process to try to get like a nice solid handle on everything because I know this side of it's so weird. And I'm kind of thinking that the song might end up having a lot of like double tracking apart in the two different modes and blending them together. So we'll see if that kind of like bears out. And if you heard that on the intro track, you'll know that this is the moment that it came from. And then, of course, you have the tropical strangle. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can find a place for that in a song, but I'm getting weirdly kind of like caught up in playing it, which must count for something. But then you get back to that and you go, ah, there it is.
It's my turn.
It's your turn. Don't touch the mic. Just talk.
I want my mom and dad.
You what?
I want my mom and dad.
Good job.
I took one muffin. See?
Are you just pretending to talk? What are you saying?
I'm saying.
There you go. Now you can see the shot better. There you go.
Ooh.
You singing?
No.
No.
So, I have to play with Mom.
You're gonna go play with Mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna play the hide and seek.
Okay.